Welcome, everyone. Good afternoon. I am Robin Harris, your 2022-23 HCAR president, and I'm excited to introduce to you today's speaker. But first, I have a few quick updates for HCAR. I want you to save the date for our 2023 Conference and Expo, which is being held on Tuesday, March 14th at Turf Valley. And we'll have some great opportunities for CE classes, professional development, and networking, and a few other fun things that we might have planned for you also. Please sign up and come out. Also want to remind everyone that we have a Maryland Realtors Lobby Day on Tuesday, February 7th in Annapolis. We will meet at the Governor's Calvert House before heading out to meet with our state legislative representatives to discuss realtor priorities in the coming year. And registration is open at mdrealtor.org. And if you'd like to ride the HCAR bus to Annapolis, please contact our Government Affairs Director, Najee Bailey, to reserve that seat. And they are filling up fast. And he can be reached at najee@hcar.org. And one last announcement, I'd like to remind everyone that HCAR Cares is currently holding a Super Bowl pool fundraiser to benefit their Howard County Community Scholarship Fund. And please visit their website at hcarcares.org to claim your square. We hope to see everyone participating in some of these activities, and we look forward to connecting with you all in other ways as well. And now I'm really pleased to introduce Brandi Snowden. She's Director of Member and Consumer Survey Research for National Association of Realtors. And she's going to give us an economic update, and Brandi directs the production and dissemination of survey research reports, as well as focusing on digital and social media maintenance and content creation. And she also serves as a liaison between the internal research department staff and non-members and consumers. So Brandi has a master's degree in urban and regional planning from Georgetown University and a bachelor's degree in sociology from St. Mary's College of Maryland. So Brandi, it's all yours. Take it away.
Thank you, Robin, and
You're
thank
welcome.
you for introducing me today, and thank you again, Sarah, for inviting me here to speak today. I'm always happy to join locally. I grew up in Harford County, Maryland, and Havre de Grace, so yeah, always great to get to speak to some of our local realtors. And I'm very excited to be able to share just some of the research that our entire team is working on daily and throughout the year here at NAR. So I'll start off with sharing some of our economic research from our economic team, and then going into how some of this compares to some of the survey research data that we're seeing. So just starting out and looking at one of our monthly surveys among our members is our Realtors Confidence Index survey. And from this, we're able to gather timely information from our members. And we ask them questions based on their recent real estate transactions from that previous month. So our latest data, I'm happy to be able to share, was just released last Friday. So we're getting some of the most recent updates from the end of last year. So all of our recent data will be from December of 2022. And within this survey, we ask our members different things pertaining to their recent transactions. So first, looking at the median days on markets from some of their recently sold properties, we saw that properties typically remained on the market for 26 days in December, and that was up slightly from 24 days in November, and also up from a year prior from what we saw in December of 2021. And looking back at our trend line from when we began tracking this back in 2011, we also saw some of the lowest median days on market that we had seen this previous year. So looking at that number of 14, we saw that back in June of July of 2022. And again, that was the fewest days on market or median days on market that we had seen since we began tracking this data. And then also looking at some of the shares of homes that we're selling in under a month. So we ask our members about the time frame of which their recently sold homes that they were covering sold. So we saw that in December, 57% of homes sold on the market were on the market for less than a month. And that was down from 61%, which we saw in November, and then also down from some of the highs that we had seen. So that 88% was back in June of 2022, and then also the other second large hump was back in July of 2021, in which we saw 89% of homes selling in under a month. Then we also ask about the number of offers that they're typically receiving on their most recent sale. So we saw that in December, the average number of offers received was 2.2 offers, and that is down slightly from a month prior, in which we saw 2.3 in November. And then that's also down from that peak that we saw of 5.5, and that was back in April of 2022. So we have been seeing that over the last few months of the year, we've seen that the average number of offers has been coming down. And then also looking at some of our most recent existing home sales numbers. So our Realtors Confidence Index is released with our existing home sales release every month. So those typically come out towards the end of the month. And again, our most recent existing home sales data was released just this past Friday. And from that, our economics team also tracks the annual number of home sales from the year. So looking at 2022, we saw that existing home sales totaled around 5.03 million, and that was down 17.8% from in 2021. And we saw that as interest rates continued to rapidly escalate this past year, that had some effect and weighed down residential real estate. And we see that through our existing home sales. And then also looking just at our monthly home sales. So in December, we saw that total existing home sales decreased 1.5% from November. And we also saw that year over year that home sales were down again when compared to December of 2021. And then we also look at unsold inventory levels. So we see that right now, unsold inventory is sitting at a 2.9 month supply at its current sales pace, and that is down from 3.3 in November. Then also looking at the median home sales price from our existing home sales, we saw that looking at the median home price for all housing types in December, the median price was $366,900, and that was actually an increase from the previous year of December of 2021. And we also saw that looking year over year that those prices were also increasing in all regions. And we have continued to see 130 months of consecutive year over year increases for those median prices. And then also looking at how some of this data is comparing to our survey research data. So I'll go into some of our data from our profile of home buyers and sellers. So this was most recently released in November. And this is our annual report of our recent home buyers and recent home sellers, and just covering lots of different aspects of their recent home purchase or recent home sale. So looking at the characteristics of our home buyers and home sellers, the types of homes that they were purchasing, going through the financing, and also how they're purchasing and how they're selling, whether that's through an agent, which is what we'll see it upcoming. So first, looking at the median age of our first time and repeat buyers specifically, and we saw that our first time home buyers and also our repeat buyers, along with all buyers, we saw that the median age this past year in 2022 actually increased to all-time highs since we had began tracking this data. So we saw that in 2022, the median age of first-time home buyers increased to 36 years, and then also for repeat buyers increased to 59 years. So looking at this trend line, we've seen that in most recent years, we saw that the ages had remained relatively flat, slight increases, but this past year, we really saw that those median ages took an increase. And we also have seen that just given these increases in age, that our recent buyers might feel more comfortable either purchasing or buying later in life, or may have needed to hold off on their recent home purchase. So we've also seen that the recent tenure in homes has also been increasing given these rising ages. And then looking at our share of first-time homebuyers, we saw that this year, the share actually dropped to 26% of all buyers and down from 34% last year, and also down from our peak of 50, which was back in 2010. And we saw that our potential first-time home buyers and also our first-time home buyers that we've surveyed in this survey, that they're really facing different challenges that are making it hard for them to enter home ownership. And that also might be preventing them from saving also for a down payment. And then looking at our household composition of our recent home buyers, we saw that married couples continue to make up the largest share of our recent home buyers at 61%. And then we also saw that single females dropped slightly to 17%. And then single males were 9%, and also unmarried couples were 10%. And in some of this data, we take it and look by generation. So that will be one of our upcoming reports. So I would look out for that if you're interested. And something that we also see when looking across generations is that our single female buyers are typically outnumbering our single male buyers. And we see that across all generations and all age groups. And then something that we've seen quite a few different shifts this past year, looking at our report. And one of the things that we have seen is the location that our recent buyers are choosing to purchase in. And we saw that the suburbs and subdivisions continue to be the largest, make up the largest share of the locations. But we saw that there was a drop where we're also seeing a rise in buyers choosing to purchase in small towns as well as rural areas. So we saw small towns increase to 29% from 20% just this last year. And then we also saw that rural towns increased to 19% from 12%. So we're seeing that even though buyers are might be choosing their neighborhood and location based on lots of different factors, we see that affordability and also maybe proximity to their friends and family might have played a higher role this past year. So we're seeing that small towns and also those rural areas are those might have been key for especially affordability and just the family support that our buyers might be looking for. And then also looking at the types of homes that our recent home buyers purchased. This is another shift that we saw just from last year. So we see that overall, our recent buyers were still typically purchasing our detached single family homes at 79%. But this past year, we actually had to open our categories. So we had typically grouped together some of the manufactured housing and cabin and cottages into our other category, but we were seeing such a large percentage in other this year that we expanded those back out to really see what types of homes our recent buyers were purchasing. So we saw that manufactured housing made up 8%, and that's compared to just 2% in 2021. As well, we saw that our cabins and cottages made up 4% this year, and that's compared to just 1% in 2021. And we had been seeing for many years previously that townhomes were the second most common housing type that our recent buyers were purchasing. But we saw that that percentage dropped down in 2022, as well as our apartments and duplexes and condo buildings. So we did see kind of that shift, in which could also go towards our more affordable housing choices that we've been seeing. And then we looking at our recent buyers that were choosing to purchase multi-generational homes, we saw that that percentage went back up to 14% this year in 2022. And we had seen it drop off a little bit in 2011. But some of the top reasons that our recent buyers were choosing for purchasing multi-generational homes were to take care of aging parents, wanting a larger home that multiple incomes can afford together. Also, they might have children that are over the age of 18 moving back into their home, or they might even have children that are over the age of 18 that have never left home. So we're seeing those different reasons that our recent buyers might be choosing to purchase a multi-generational home, and then also looking at those affordability options, as well as some of the other decisions that they have been making in order to afford this larger home or multi-generational home. And then something else that we've seen this year is that the median distance that our recent buyers were moving compared to their previous residence. So we saw that even going back beyond 2018, we had seen that this number had remained relatively flat from what we were seeing. And this year we saw that the median miles that were typically moved actually increased to 50. And that was the highest that we had ever reported when we took a look back at our entire trend line. And we saw that, again, some of our recent home buyers might be more willing to look a greater distance for those affordability options, being closer to their friends and family. And then as well, just in recent years and since the pandemic, we have seen that there's a larger there might be a greater option for our recent buyers to work remotely. So that could also have factored into their choices to move a greater distance. And then looking into some of the reasons that our recent buyers gave when purchasing their recent homes, we saw that continued to see that the desire to own a home of their own remained at the top of the list. But then when we look at our first-time home buyers versus our repeat home buyers, we see some differences. So especially among our first-time home buyers, they're really looking to own a home of their own. Whereas for our repeat buyers, they might be looking to move closer to friends and family. They might be moving for retirement, and then also looking for either a smaller home or a home in a better area. So we do see those kind of differences, and it's also something that we see when we look by generation, whereas our younger home buyers are looking to own a home of their own compared to our older generations of home buyers. And then from our member profile, which is also an annual survey of our membership and is going out pretty soon here. So if you do happen to get that survey, please help us out by taking it, because we are all of this data is very useful to us and we love to be able to share it with you all. So in our member profile, one of the questions, one of the things that we ask our members about their clients is, what do they think is the most important factor that is limiting their potential clients from completing a transaction? And this past year, when we asked that question, we saw that at 57%, lack of inventory surpassed even difficulty to find the right property, and also housing affordability as the most important factor that was potentially limiting clients. And we see that this also speaks to the low inventory levels that we're seeing across the country. So we're seeing that housing affordability is still an important factor. So the list that we ask is longer than this, but these are the top 3 answers that we have seen. And then looking back at our recent home buyers, so going back to our profile of home buyers and sellers data, we also asked them about what they feel was the most difficult steps in the home buying process for them. And we see that among all of our buyers, and even looking at our first time and repeat buyers, that just finding the right property was listed as the most difficult step. And then also we see that for our first time home buyers, just some of the paperwork involved in the home buying process, as well as understanding the home buying process and all of the steps was still difficult for them. As well, we see that saving for a down payment was listed higher than all the other categories for our first-time home buyers. So compared to our repeat buyers, where 22% had said that there were no difficult steps for them, we still see that for our first-time home buyers, there might be several things that they're finding difficult when going through the home buying process. And then looking at the length of search for our recent home buyers, we saw that in 2022, the home search typically took 10 weeks. And for our buyers, they're typically viewing 5 homes, and they're typically viewing 4 homes only online. So we did see that this year, the length of search did actually increase by 2 weeks. And then we also saw that they're viewing slightly less homes. So it might be even that they're having trouble finding homes that finding homes to view that might be meeting all of their criteria. So we did see that that dropped a little bit from 2021. And then also looking at our expected tenure. So we ask our recent home buyers, we ask them how long they're expecting to live in their home. And then from the seller side later in the survey, we also ask our recent sellers how long they actually did live in their home. So we're typically seeing that the expected tenure is slightly higher than the actual tenure within a home. But this year we saw that our first-time home buyers were actually expecting to stay in their home for a longer period of time than we had previously seen. Just looking, at our trend line, we had seen that it was very flat. So that before in 2021 and looking previously, they were expecting to stay in their home for 10 years. And then we saw that jump to 18 this year. And then we're still seeing that our repeat buyers are expecting to stay in their home for 15 years, which is what we had previously seen. So we're seeing that our first-time home buyers that just after getting through the home buying process for the first time, they might be ready to just stay put for a little bit. They might have moved to a larger, further distance. So yeah, they're really expecting to stay in their home for a longer period of time. And then looking at our actual tenure from our recent home sellers, we saw that it returned to 10 years this year. So we saw that in 2021, that it dropped down to 8 years. So we saw that during the pandemic, some of our buyers might have been just ready to change homes and ready to purchase. So we've seen that they're actually staying back in their homes for 10 years this year. And some of the reasons that our sellers were choosing to sell their home were to be closer to friends and family, again, moving due to retirement, and moving for a neighborhood choice. So then also during the pandemic, we saw that relocating for a job relocation had become more common. So then also looking at our prior living arrangement, and specifically for our first-time home buyers, we saw that a larger share of our first-time home buyers were moving directly from living with their parents, relatives, or friends and going into home ownership at a higher rate than we had seen since we began tracking it. So we saw that 27% of our first-time home buyers, their prior living arrangement was living with their parents, friends, or relatives, and this might have allowed them to save for their down payments, work to pay down some of their debt, work on their credit scores before entering home ownership. So yeah, it's becoming a more common living situation that we see for our first-time home buyers, especially that are entering home ownership. And then looking at the method that our recent home buyers were purchasing their home, we see that continue to see that they are primarily working with agents or brokers for their recent home purchase. So we saw that this year, 86% purchased their home through a real estate agent or broker, 10% purchased directly from the previous owner, and then 2% from the builder or builder's agent. And then looking at what some of our recent buyers are looking for most when they're choosing a real estate agent to work with, we see that overall, they're really looking for someone to help them find the right home to purchase. So even looking at the home search process, we see that they're still finding finding the right property as one of the difficult steps. So they're really looking to their agent to help them in finding that right property. And then also they're looking for help with negotiating the terms of their sale, help with the price negotiations, and also help with the paperwork, which is what we had seen our first-time home buyers really struggling with during the home buying process. So they're looking to work with an agent to help them through just through the whole process, and especially with these help with these paperwork and price negotiations. So then looking at our down payments, especially for our first-time home buyers and our repeat buyers, we saw that first-time home buyers typically put down 6% this past year in 2022. And we see that it's slightly higher for our repeat buyers at 17%. And then among all buyers, we saw just slight increase to 14%. And especially looking at our first-time home buyers and looking back through the trend line, might be lower than what we might expect for our down payment amounts, which we might think of as being closer to 20%, but we see that historically our first-time home buyers have been putting down less than 10% just throughout the year. So we see that slightly higher for our repeat buyers, and they could be using proceeds from previous home sales towards their down payment. So then looking further at our sources of down payments, and again, looking at our first time versus repeat buyers and all buyers, we see that the top source continues to be savings at 47%, and then slightly higher for our first time home buyers at 64%. And then for our repeat buyers, the top source was proceeds from the sale of a primary residence at 50%. And then looking at some of the highlighted columns here, we see that another trend that we've been seeing in recent years is the seeing our often first time and also our younger home buyers, when we look by generation, that they're receiving help from their friends and family in the form of a gift or a loan towards their down payment. So we saw that in 2022, 22% were receiving a down payment in the form of a gift or a loan. And then we see that our buyers might be pulling from multiple sources towards their down payment, and especially our first-time home buyers, while they're relying primarily on their savings as a primary source. We see that we're still seeing the role that our friends and family might be playing in the home buying process. And then another one of our surveys that we conduct every other year is our profile of home staging report. And in this, we've been asking from our members' perspective about the role that friends and family are playing in the home buying process from their view. So one of the questions that we've been asking our members is just the share of buyers who are bringing family members with them to view homes. And this might be, even though they're not going to purchase the home along with the buyer, but we see that median of 20% of our members said that their buyers are bringing family members with them who might not be purchasing the home. And we see that only 8% of our members said that none of their buyers were bringing family members with them. And then we also ask our members in the profile of home staging about buyers who are consulting with their family members during the home buying process. So again, we saw that a median of 30% of our members said that their buyers were consulting with family during the home buying process. And only 3% said that none of their buyers were were consulting with their family members during the home buying process. So we're seeing, even from our members' perspective, as well as from our recent home buyers, just the growing share that family members and their how they're being consulted, and yeah, just involved in the home buying process. Yeah, continue to see that. So then we also ask our recent home sellers about the number of weeks that their home was on the market. So previously in 2021, we had seen the lowest median number of weeks that a home had been on the market, and it was just 1 week. So this year, it was interesting to see what would happen if it would stay at that low level. So we did see a slight increase to 2 weeks, and will it be even interesting to see going forward, just given how the rest of the year has gone and what we'll expect to see from the beginning of this year. So we saw a slight increase in the number of weeks that a home was typically on the market. And then also looking at our sellers and seeing just how they're selling their home. We still see that our recent home sellers were choosing to sell their home through an agent, and we see that 86% used an agent to sell their home. And we also see that our sellers were looking to their agent with help to price their home competitively, help to market their home, and then also help to sell their home within a specific time frame if they needed to sell within a specific time frame. So we're seeing that our recent sellers are also looking to their agent for help during their recent home sale. And then these are just a few of the many reports and data releases that our research team is producing throughout the year and on a monthly basis. So if you're interested in seeing any of the full reports that I've mentioned, they can be found on our website on the research and statistics page. So the last link that I have up there. And then as well, if you're interested in following us on social media, we are posting every day about our different data releases and also our different reports that we're releasing. So thank you again for inviting me here to just share some of the things that we're working on. And I'll turn it back to Sarah in case we have any questions and I'd be happy to answer those.
Okay, it doesn't look like we have any questions in the Q&A or the chat. If you have something, go ahead and put it in there. So otherwise, this has been recorded and it will be available for viewing on HCAR's YouTube page. Keep an eye out for the link in this weekend's newsletter. Brandi is also sending the PowerPoint, so we will have access to that as well. And Brandi, I don't see any questions coming in. So thank you so much for your time today. We do really appreciate you. Yep, no questions.
Of course, thank you for having me again.
All right, Robin, did you want to say anything?
I just want to thank Brandi for that very informative look at our industry and how it's changing, and encourage everyone to follow NAR social media platforms for updated information. Thank you again, Brandi. We appreciate you.
All right, have a great day, everybody. Bye.